You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Does the Quran command women to cover their faces? We'll be looking at that now. Some people think it does, and they refer to a particular verse. We'll be looking at that verse as part of our Misunderstood Quranic Verses series. The verses from chapter 33, verse 59. And with me to discuss is Dr. Shabir. Dr. Shabir, I'm going to read you one translation, and then I'm going to compare a few different ones so you can get a sense of the difference. And they all surround, this notion of what to do with the garments and, whether that you should, draw it over yourself, it should be closer to you, where it should come from. So I'm going to read the first one and then show you some comparisons. So the first one I'm going to read is from the Muhammad Mahmud Ghali translation. It says, "O you prophet, say to your spouses and your daughters and the women of believers that they draw their outer garments closer to them. That will make it likelier that they will be recognized and so will not be hurt." Then the next translation is the Mustafa Khattab translation. It says, "O Prophet, ask your wives, daughters, and believing women to draw their cloaks over their bodies." So this is draw their cloaks over their bodies. Then the Abdul Halim translation says, "Please tell your wives, your daughters, and women believers to make their outer garments hang low over them." So this one is outer garments hanging low, right? And yeah, so those are the main three. We can look at another one later from Muhammad Shafi, but those are the main three. As you can see, they all have a different understanding of where the cloak should come from, where it should hang from. So a lot of difference of opinion, it seems, in these in the interpretations of the verses.
Yeah, and it's important for Muslims to see that there are different interpretations when it comes to verses of the Quran. So before we build a stringent requirement to be imposed on half of the Muslim population, namely women, then we should be sure that it is based on what God actually said. And by the time we're looking at these various translations, we come to realize that the verse can be understood in slightly different ways. And if you go into the classical commentaries on this verse, you will see also that there is a variety of interpretations and different ways in which the same verse might be interpreted.
Mm-hmm.
So a key word in this verse is the verb dana, which means to be close or to be low.
Mm-hmm.
And this is reflected in the various translations. So the Mahmud Ghali's translation says, "Let them bring their garments close to them."
Mm-hmm.
So why would that be significant? Now, elsewhere, we know that Imam Ibn Kathir, in his commentary, especially in reference to Surah 24, verse 31, which we covered earlier, said that the women at the time used to, like prior to Islam, they would have their garments, their head coverings trailing behind their shoulders. So they were leaving a part of their chest exposed. And so the Quran was telling them in that other verse to bring that head covering over the bosoms, so that they would not reveal their fineries except to their husbands and so on. So maybe the intent of this verse, if we follow Mahmud Ghali's translation, would be to bring the garments close. So if you think of the garment being open, well, close it up. If we go by Muhammad Khattab's translation, the idea there is to let them draw the garments over themselves or upon their bodies. So if we think of the large outer cloak, well, then they're being told to draw that outer cloak, like bring it over there, maybe from the shoulders down. It's not so very clear. Classical commentators on the Quran wanted to say, well, they should hang it from the forehead, because they had the idea somehow that the woman's face should be covered, and the way to do that would be to hang it from the forehead.
But interestingly enough, nothing about these verses suggests anything about covering the face.
No.
Not clearly. I mean, you would never think of, at least in my understanding, if I'm thinking about drawing a cloak over or under or whatever it is, you never think about it relating to the face at all.
Exactly. Yes. You wouldn't think of it that way.
When did it ever come to be associated with the face?
Yeah. It seems that at some time in Islamic history, before obviously the classical tafsirs were written, the idea, got set among Muslims that women should cover their faces, especially when they go out in public. And it was not a universally agreed principle, but that's the one that got to be recorded in al-Tabari's tafsir. Now, Imam al-Tabari died in the year 311 of the Hijrah, which means exactly 300 years, 310 of the Hijrah. Now, I'm a little bit unsure. 310 of the Hijrah, which means approximately 300 years after the death of our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That means within the intervening centuries after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, a lot of water flowed under the bridge. And part of that flow is resulting in the idea that women should cover their faces when they are in public. And that's the idea that was captured by Imam al-Tabari, and then that get replicated in, so many other later tafsirs. Now, to be sure, it's probably so in the tafsir of Muqatil bin Sulaiman as well, but I haven't had the chance to check it. I should have checked it, but it slipped my mind to check it before in preparation for this discussion. So let's stick with this for a moment, that at some point after the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him, this idea crept in. But we know from the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, many reports showing that women actually appeared in public with their faces uncovered. So it could not have been a universally accepted principle from the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. It's a later accretion.
So how do we know that women appeared with their faces uncovered?
Oh, there's several reports. There is one report, for example, that says that a woman came and asked the Prophet, peace be upon him, a question. And the reporter said that this woman had a dark complexion, which means that her face was obviously exposed. And there are many different reports. I didn't revise them all to be able to answer this particular question at the moment. Maybe in a future episode, we'll deal with that as a specific topic. But coming back to the verse itself, now Mustafa Khattab lightens the requirement by saying ask instead of tell. Ask the believing women to do this. But nonetheless, he has it that it comes over the body. But as you said, it could be that the cloak is worn from the shoulders down. So in a sense, it is like over the body, right? You put this on you means put it on your shoulders. And then Abdul Halim has it that let them draw their garments low. So you see the verb dana, which could mean to be low or to be close. And the various translations are hinging on these different meanings. Either you draw the garment close, or you draw it low, or you bring it down on you. But as you said, nothing of this really gives the connotation that the face should be covered. But if one starts with the idea that the face should be covered, which is what the classical commentators seem to have done, is that now they start to think, okay, how is it going to be how is it going to cover the face? Okay, well, hang it on the forehead, which is the most unnatural thing to do. But that's how they imagine it. It's like, if we said that somebody touched his ear, then we get the idea, they simply reached up and touched his ear, right? But then they said, no, well, he did it with this other way, like he got this arm around and then he touched it from this direction. So he's imagining something. He's imagining something unnatural. So we shouldn't imagine something unnatural. The natural meaning is that women should go about in society in such a way that they should be recognized as decent persons, so that nobody would start throwing aspersions on them or, carry tales about them. And this meaning is actually reflected in the way that Mufti Muhammad Shafi has translated the passage, even though he himself would probably say that the woman's garb has to be more extensive than the translation seems to indicate.
All right, we'll leave it at that. So much more to talk about, Dr. Shabir. I mean, we could differentiate between free women and slave women. There's a lot more, but maybe next time. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiya and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.